Bucklers, you're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 70. I am Phil Johnson. I'm your host for the show. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for telling your friends. That's always helpful. I appreciate all that you do to help keep Under the Crossbones afloating on the water. So episode number 70, fun fact about the number 70, in Olympic archery, the targets are 70 meters away from the shooter. And I don't know what that is in the U.S. measurement system. Everything else is in meters all over the world, except for here. It's however many feet are in meters, not 70. Anyway, today on the show is my guest, Tom Butler of greenfeetgames.org. And Tom is a board game designer, and he's got a great new game coming out called The Pirate Republic, which sounds really, really interesting, and I think you're going to dig it. And he's going to be doing a Kickstarter for it soon, so that's why we're going to be talking about it today. And not only that, but Tom's day gig is that he's a combat rescue officer in Special Ops. How cool is that, right? So we're going to talk about that too, because we can't just bring that up and then not discuss it, right? Because that's a badass job. So we're going to talk about his game, we're going to talk about his day gig, all that kind of fun stuff. And it's a really good, fun interview. You're going to dig it. So I'm just back from San Diego, did some gigs at the Comedy Palace down there over the weekend. Thanks to everybody that came out for those. It was a whole bunch of fun. I stayed in an Airbnb for the first time because I ran out of hotel points, and that club wasn't putting me up. So I stayed in an Airbnb, and I had, it's nice. It's like a hotel, but without all that pesky privacy and maid service that you're used to. So I got a room in a house, and it was like a 5-bedroom house, but it was all Airbnb'd out, right? There was like nobody who actually lives there. The owners just Airbnb the whole thing out. So there were like other people staying in the other rooms, but everybody was so quiet. Like I could hear people, but I never saw people. Everybody was very, very just like they stayed in their room. And when they came out, I was in my room. And when I came out, they were in their rooms. I never saw anybody else that was staying there the entire weekend. So that was a little weird, but it was cool. It was cheaper than a hotel, and you have to do your own maid service, I guess, but not too bad. But the shows were good. Shows were good at the Comedy Palace. Always fun to go down there. Got some news in the pirate community this week that I thought you might like. We all know about the Whydah, right? The Whydah pirate ship out there on Cape Cod, Barry Clifford's project. And they just scored a movie deal, apparently. So we are going to get sometime in the next few years, a movie about Barry Clifford and JFK Jr. Discovering the Whydah pirate ship, which I think should be a very cool story, should make a great movie. Now, they've just, I don't know if they're greenlit or they just struck the deal or whatever it was, but now we'll probably see this movie 2 to 3 years from now because movies take forever to get made. But that's out there. So a Whydah movie, that's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be good. I am back on the road this week for my last 3 shows of this year. Last 3 shows, and then I'm going to eat donuts because that's what I do. So Tuesday, December the 13th, if you're listening the day this episode comes out, I will be at Double Decker Lanes in Rohnert Park, California. And then Friday, December the 16th, I will be at Spice Monkey in Oakland, California. And Sunday, December 18th, I will be at the Morgan Hill Bowl in Morgan Hill, California. I think I'm headlining both of the bowling alley gigs. And Spice Monkey is going to be a workout set. That'll be like a 15, 20-minute set. So that'll be fun. And then after the Morgan Hill Bowl, I will find a Krispy Kreme's and buy a half dozen donuts and reflect on the year. Because that's what I do. That's what I do. And speaking of the end of this year, for December 27th, which would normally, that's a Tuesday, that would normally be a new episode of Under the Crossbones. I'm not going to do an episode that week. I'm going to take a week off. My girlfriend's going to be off work, so I'm kind of clearing things off my to-do list. So there won't be an episode that week, but there will be an episode. There will be something new from Under the Crossbones in your feed from me. I got a special treat for you. It's only going to be available for 1 week, so make sure that you download it during that week, and then it goes away. Okay, so that's all I'm going to tell you for now, but you'll find out what it is. It's going to be good. If you're digging the show, remember to tell your friends. That's always helpful. Hook up with us on Facebook, facebook.com/underthecrossbones, twitter.com/undercrossbones, and of course, you can always get all the show notes for this episode at underthecrossbones.com/070 for episode 70. Man, the show is almost ready for Social Security. So just about there. It's gonna be good. Gonna be good. Next year, we're gonna hit 100 next year. That's gonna be cool, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Who knew? Who knew it would last that long? I didn't. If you want to help support the show, that's always much appreciated. You can go to underthecrossbones.com/support. There's a little PayPal donation box there. You can donate whatever quantity of money that you think is reasonable, whether that be $1, $5, whatever a bottle of rum is worth. Anything like that is cool. There's also an Amazon banner there. If you click on that Amazon banner, you go over there, you go to Amazon, you buy yourself something nice, you finish up your Christmas shopping, all that kind of good stuff. Amazon kicks me back a few pennies. It's not a bunch, and it doesn't change your price at all, but it does help the show. So click on that Amazon banner. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, if you've got a product or a service that you think a pirate crowd would enjoy, it's cheap and easy to be a sponsor of the show. Just go check it out, underthecrossbones.com/support. All right, let's get into my interview with Tom Butler of greenfeetgames.org about his new game, The Pirate Republic. Here we go. Ready? Go. Bam. So you are a game designer, Tom, and the name of your game is The Pirate Republic. So we're going to dig into a bunch of stuff. Tell me a little bit about your game and about how it works.
Absolutely. Well, as most folks may be aware, the entire board gaming community has basically reached a golden age, if you will, and I think that's important for many reasons, because it's this case where you have a game where people are trying to win within a set of rules, where they're involved, except with the spirit of fair play. So what's important for board gamers, I think, these days is the fact that they're looking for an experience that does two things. One is the American gaming experience, I would argue, is something where players love that aggression aspect of a game.
Uh-huh.
They want to, quote unquote, slash and hack their way to victory. Whereas your European gamers, and again, not to put them into a category, but in their context, they like that indirect conflict. That, if you will, let's use some resources, let's compete against each other, and let's accomplish this goal most effectively. So what this board game, The Pirate Republic, is trying to do, it's trying to blend this complexity that gamers are looking for with a lot of strategic depth. And the way that you do that, I think, is you need to have smooth mechanics, which is basically your rules, but it also has to have a great storyline. And so what's amazing about, I think, The Pirate Republic, or really any history of pirates, is that it sells itself in that the storylines are all fantastic, or we wouldn't be talking about them today still. Many years later. So for me, it's the theme really already spoke to itself because of the great storyline that we see with the rising of the golden age of piracy.
Great, that's cool. How does the difference between that sort of U.S. style gaming and European style gaming, how does that manifest itself in your game?
Sure. Well, the Pirate Republic, it's both cooperative and it's competitive. It's a thematic adventure that has right now 1 to 4 players. Where there will be a solo variant as well as a potential 5th player where you can actually, if there's a Kickstarter goal that's reached. But basically what it does is you get to take on this infamous pirate captain role where you're completing mission objectives over 3 rounds of play to try to amass the most swagger, which, of course, swagger in pirate terms is what we're looking at is more victory points.
Nice.
And you're going to do that by going on these daring feats and plundering on the high seas. And the game basically ends when you've accomplished as a group this mission objective, and the last pirate takes their last turn. So because it's fully cooperative to fully competitive, what I find interesting is that all folks can win that are playing, all pirates can win, none of the pirates can win, or some of the pirates can win. And that's the fully cooperative competitive mode. And what's important there is maybe your gaming community just likes to play a cooperative game. But maybe someone in your gaming community really likes that competitive aspect, and that's where the tallying of the final scores can come in, and basically you can declare yourself the ultimate pirate of the West Indies. So I think it tries to appeal to basically those 2 different type of gamers, those that are looking for that competitive experience and those that are looking for more of a cooperative experience. And so you're going to do that by basically sailing on the high seas in the early 1700s, where I think it's pivotal that we look at the history aspect, which it's important to note the game is not so much a simulation as it does have some simulation aspects because of the historical pieces involved, but it is definitely a board game where you're looking to amass those victory points and have fun. So I think to answer your question, what we are all looking for in one sense of the word, one of the illusions of pirates, I think, is they basically, similar to board games, they allow us to escape to this different reality. They give us this opportunity to escape in a board game and take on a persona of a real pirate during that time frame. And who doesn't want to do that if you're into that pirate nostalgia?
Right.
So the board game really, you want to be, it basically centers on you being able to be one of 4, potentially 5 characters. It's got Blackbeard in there. It's got Black Sam Bellamy, Anne Bonny, Calico Jack. And for those folks that if it does do very well on Kickstarter, we're going to introduce a 5th character, which is Olivier Lavassier. Olivier Lavassier, depending on how you pronounce his name, which is Labouche or Labouche, either, of course, the mouth or the buzzard. But I think in that regard, for those folks that are looking maybe to learn a little bit more about pirates, they're definitely going to understand the characters in this game, and those characters will take on different personas and traits that are unique to those characters in gameplay. For example, Blackbeard, I would argue he was a master of psychological warfare. So his cards, when you're playing the game, are more geared towards striking fear into the opponents and winning. Whereas Sam Bellamy was pretty much one of the, as you know, one of the original members of the Flying Gang. So he's more of a great strategist. So his cards are more geared towards how does he get himself out of situations? How can he engage in long-range combat as well as close-quarter combat? So his cards are more geared toward that. So you're going to see that the theme really bleeds throughout the entire gameplay.
Very intriguing. I think that's interesting. I have a couple of questions about. So your game is set in 1713. I read on your website. What made you choose that particular time period in the Golden Age?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm fascinated with the Flying Gang. I'm fascinated with the fact that if you look throughout history, there's always these what we call these black swan events, where just when you think a situation has resolved itself and there's going to be peaceful means in the West Indies or wherever that region is, another conflict pops up. And who could have expected that after the War of Spanish Succession, what was going to happen with all these sailors who you now have just demobilized? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think some estimates are up to 2,000 in numbers. So you take these sailors who were on the letter of marque, and they were basically, as you know, commissioned for the last close to 13, 14 years doing, in effect, piracy, but legalized piracy.
Sure.
And now one day you basically wave your wand and you say, okay, no more. You can't basically do that anymore. Well, as you know, pirates have a vote. And so pirates during that time frame, you want to go back to the establishment, or basically do you want to create your own establishment? And I think we see that with from the Flying Game formation to other pirates during that time frame. So the appeal is there, I think, because of the historical context, maxed with the fact of what are these 2,000 plus demobilized sailors going to do, and then hence here comes the fiction mixed with the nonfiction, which I think is very important.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. For the benefit of listeners, explain the Flying Gang a little bit. Well,
what we basically have is you have this loose band of pirates at the time who basically said, it's great to pirate, but isn't pooling our resources and our capabilities together to pirate together? Would that not be something, or basically cooperative pirating, if you will, to benefit not just a single pirate, but this gang of pirates? So basically this loose confederation, for lack of a better word, that says let's pool resources, let's pool capability. Hamilton had a lot to do with it, as well as Sam Bellamy. But if you look at all of our pirates that we're somewhat fascinated with, to include Blackbeard, they were associated in one way or another with the Flying Gang. I believe also to include Olivier Lavassier. So what's interesting is we don't really think of pirates forming gangs very often, but they did. But this one in particular, calling themselves the Flying Gang, which you can turn to just recent movies, such as if you looked at Black Sails, which you'll see a lot of similarities with the Stars series, Black Sails.
Sure.
Basically, there's, I guess the book that I would say defines a lot of, what we're basically talking about here is Captain Johnson's General History of Robberies and Murders.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I guess resource is really what we base a lot of our understanding of that time period on. And so to include his understanding of the flying game.
Great, very cool. Yeah, that's fantastic. And the cooperative aspect of it is very intriguing to me, because I'm not a game guy, video, board game, any of that kind of stuff, because I find so much of my life and work is competitive to begin with, that when I want to relax, I want to be super not competitive, which drives my girlfriend nuts, because she is super competitive at board games. And I'm always like, all right, you won. I don't really care. So I think that cooperational aspect of a board game is pretty intriguing, because I would rather cooperate in my downtime. I think that's cool. So a couple of questions then. Why a pirate board game? Were you like a pirate guy before, or did it just occur to you?
No, that's a great question. My background is in the special operations of the Department of Defense.
Uh-huh.
And what you find a lot in the special operations community is a lot of similarities when it comes to some of the tactics that were involved with the pirates of this time period. Basically, if you look at what we know today of, or what we call special operations and those capabilities, you're taking people from a background that's very diverse, and you're basically saying, with limited resources and limited capability, we want you to take on a superior force. And if you think about it in terms of what we call relative superiority, which is a phrase that was coined by a Navy SEAL, basically, if I could go into that definition a little bit,
Sure.
I love the academic part of this, but you have a situation where can you take on a smaller attacking force, gain that decisive advantage, and control a larger defending enemy? And now you have that initiative to exploit that enemy's weakness and secure victory. And so if you look at you can take many of the pirates' tactics and techniques, from Blackbeard basically raising his own flag to basically putting the fuses in his hair that he lit before battle. We know that relative superiority that we speak of, many times pirates were outgunned, they were outmatched, but they were able, through that mechanism of psychological warfare, to pretty much subdue their enemies. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at special operation forces today, what excites me about it is special operations are taking these small units to engage in military actions that are trying to achieve objectives, and they're combining that personnel, that equipment, and that tactics to exceed routine capabilities of your conventional forces. So I would say part of it is my special operations background, but I have to be honest as well. I love board gaming. I'm a board gamer as well. I'm a board game nut. And so when you throw that into the equation, my daughters at the time, the age that they were when we started this, was 12 and 14 respectively. Uh-huh. And they both said to me, Dad, you're playing a lot of board games with a pirate theme. You're kind of accessorizing those board games. You just seem that maybe the board game isn't giving you what you want out of it because you're accessorizing it, from painting the ships to changing the rules a little bit. So my daughters basically, I would call it, they basically called me out and they said, Dad, we basically double dog dare you. Why don't you go ahead and make your own board game? And so once that seed was planted, it grew, it blossomed, and we're about, I'd say, close to a little over a year into basically the design of this game, the Pirate Republic. And it's something I'm very, very excited to bring to the community and hopefully provide some value to their gaming circles.
Very nice, very nice. That's really intriguing. We're going to come back to your day job in a second, because I know everybody is listening going, wait, he's special ops? We need to talk about that. We're going to talk about that, but I want to stay on the game here for a second. Tell me about the process of creating a board game and putting it out to the public. I mean, do you have a team around you? What are you doing yourself versus what are you farming out? And what's the process like of showing the public, hey, I've got a game out here that you should play?
Well, sure. There's some great resources out on the web. James Mathis being one of them. Jamie's website as well, Stonemeyer Games. You have pretty much, I would say, not to put everybody in a category, but you have in that gaming community that we talked about, where we're reaching this stage of this golden age of gaming, you have some in the community that I would say like to hold on to those secrets and not really provide the value on how to be a gamer. And you have others that take the other approach, which is, I would like to say, a candle doesn't burn less bright by lighting another candle. And
Sure.
they basically have shown the way of how to, if you have that desire and that dream to make a board game, they help walk you through the process of where to start. And
Nice.
I think the broad stroke answer to your question is, you can either start with the mechanics, or you can start with a theme.
Okay.
So maybe the game, said it in a different way, maybe the game basically has just got some great mechanics that just brings your audience in. Or maybe your game has got this amazing theme that you just, maybe be it pirates or be it whatever that theme is, but you've taken one of those two steps and you've built around that idea some structure, from better rules to game playing it, to prototyping it, to playing it with your friends. And of course, and then you have to break it away from not playing it with your friends, because your friends are your friends for a reason. Hopefully they're being honest with you, but you need a brutally honest view of your game. And that's when you bring it out into the community of folks that you don't know, because they're perhaps going to be a little bit more objective and give you some of that feedback that you're looking for. So, I would say it either starts with the theme or it starts with the mechanics, and then it branches into this process of, okay, can I bring this to the gaming community? Is this something that's unique and that's going to provide them value? And if there's gaps in that market, then I think that's what your gamers are looking for. A lot of times it's difficult and challenging, because you have to step away from what you think that community wants and basically put yourself in their shoes and ask them, instead of you saying, what do I think that community needs? Because a lot of times we'll do that.
Sure.
Get back to that question of, what does the community want? What do they really want? And through being on some of these websites, BoardGameGeeks.com, you find that there are some gaps in, I'd say, the pirate theme board games. Now, mind you, there's some great pirate board games out there. This one just hopes to bridge the gap for folks that are maybe looking for that total pirate immersive experience.
Okay. And so it seems very similar to any of the creative arts in general, whether that be comedy or music or painting or poetry or writing or whatever it is. And there's an aspect of that where I will write material that I think the audience wants to hear, but I'm also going to write material that I personally want to hear, whether they like it or not. Is there an aspect of that in gaming at all, where you go, I want this in the game, I don't really care if they want it or not, but I think that should be part of the game?
Sure. I think you have to be sensitive to that, because if you are bringing something to the community that maybe they have not seen before, that is definitely one of your goals, is to bring them something that maybe they've not seen, it's not been packaged before, and you're bringing it to them in a way that they go, wow, this is great. I love how you changed this mechanic around, or I love how you brought this in. But you also run that risk of, I like to say, you change one thing, you potentially change everything with the game.
Sure.
So what I think is important is to borrow and paraphrase some of the quote, is that I think, like you mentioned, we are all basically creators in one aspect or another, especially board game designers. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to take that creativity and take a concept that maybe you've encountered before, and you combine it with some other concepts in a new, innovative way. And sometimes that's borrowing liberally from other works you admire. Sometimes that's a creative design that you're trying to unite two concepts and present them in a way that no one has ever experienced before. So I think if you keep that in mind, that will hopefully bring success. But I'll tell you also, this game designing it's extremely rewarding, but it's definitely extremely challenging, because just, as Thomas Edison, I think, had over thousands or hundreds of failed experiments before we actually got the light bulb. Same is true with the board gaming. So there's definitely the aspect of risk and the aspect of failure. But I think if you stick with it and you are true to why you began the process to begin with, it'll breed success.
That's interesting, and certainly there's lots of failure in every art, and I think that's One of the things that the audiences don't always see, I think in comedy, which is what I do, I think they see it more often than in other parts because we have to go out and put it in front of an audience even before it's ready. Is there, how do you put your board game in front of an audience? Do you have like sort of a beta version that you can give people to play where they can then critique what's going on and go, that didn't quite work and you need to fix this? How's that testing process work?
Sure. So the Pirate Republic, we had a couple prototypes that were built, and those prototypes went out to several game reviewers as well as folks in the local community to provide some feedback on the game. And so the Pirate Republic went through a very vigorous first round, I would call it, of game testing, and that game testing provided a lot of feedback. And what some of the overarching themes of the feedback that came in were, we love the theme, but we want a quicker experience, gaming experience. And we want something that might not be as heavy, because if you're looking for a game to maybe bring in what we would call basically a gateway game, a game that would bring in people that maybe are only familiar with your Monopolies and your Risks and your Scrabbles, and you're trying to bring them into a more immersive experience, it's very hard to do that if you break out the Pirate Republic, or it would have been with the first version. Because there is some complexity and there's some depth. So what we've tried to do with this version is tone it down from the rounds, tone it down from the number of cards, tone it down to where the action and the combat experience is a little bit is much more smooth. And then the storyline, of course, holds true to the theme. So you're going to have things in there where you're going to go try to sack Havana, or you're basically going to try to scout the treasure fleets, or you're going to take on some of the towns and ports during the time frame. And those things are going to basically, of course, make you a better pirate in the long run. You're going to be recruiting crews. You're going to basically be going out on missions. And it has a saboteur mechanic, which I don't want to get into too much details, but maybe you're that type of player that you're really for the flying gang as long as it benefits you, and then it's time for you to break away. So it really holds true to, I would say, the free will that you were able to exercise during that time period.
Yeah, are things like that changeable during the game? Like, could you be playing very cooperatively for the first half of the game and then introduce that saboteur element somewhere in between, or does that take place from the beginning?
It absolutely is the latter. So as you are sailing around and you're amassing these victory points, you're going to have opportunities to go into certain villages and pick up different pirate mission cards. Okay. And those pirate mission cards, you're going to be able to select additional missions that are only known to you, that will be tallied at the end of the game as to whether or not you accomplish them or not. But just like with anything, there has to be a risk versus reward. If you take on that pirate card that says you are now aligning with the Spanish, well, if you happen to not accomplish that objective, you're going to lose those many victory points at the end of the game with your scoring.
I see.
So there is that risk versus reward aspect of the game.
Interesting. So tell me about the team that you have around you, because obviously you're not doing every single bit of this yourself. What does the team around a board game design look like?
Basically, there's a couple methods out there to seek out the team that you're looking for. My approach really started solo. It started with me basically having this idea that gained some momentum, and then it moved on to looking for folks that could assist along the way. Some of the folks I'd like to point out, which has been instrumental to the project, is Ben Flores. Ben Flores was pretty much the lead illustrator, and he's come up with a lot of the graphic art that you're going to see in the game.
Which looks great, by the way.
Thank you. You're also going to see that Chris Collingwood. Chris Collingwood is actually a professional artist, and he's a professional artist that specializes in the strictly Dutch oil methods of 1664. Huh. And so his work is magnificent, and it stands on its own very well, depending on the time period. And we are really looking at a Kickstarter option to where Chris may be commissioned to put together a brand new piece of pirate artwork that will basically be an option that Kickstarter pledgers can go ahead and get a signed, numbered, limited print specifically for backing the game. So Chris Collingwood has had a tremendous role in using some of his existing art to really highlight the themes of the game. Cindy Vallar, who maybe your audience is very familiar with, the pirate lady.
Sure.
I like to go to her many times when it comes to the pirate historian and author aspect of the game. I do want the game to be true to the time period, but not at the sake for losing the fun aspect of the game. So she does a very good job at keeping us basically historically grounded to the time period. Earlier on, we also had Jack Rosentree. He helped design a lot of the rules development at the beginning of the game. But I'll tell you, it's an iterative process where your team that you have to start with the game might not be the team that you actually finish with. And what I mean by that is folks have competing lives of different priorities, and just because you've got them at the beginning of the project doesn't mean that they're going to be with you through the end, because your goals and objectives may change throughout that project, and they might not align with some folks that are on your team.
Sure.
I'll tell you, for example, you're going to see if you look at the map was basically put together by someone in his spare time who basically just enjoys cartography. And he just had a knack for cartography, and he just wanted to basically say, hey, I want to help design your map for your board game.
Okay.
And so it's very interesting that you get these folks that just, it's a hobby, so to speak, and they just really want to provide that value. The last person I'd like to mention, if I could, is Luke Ahern. Luke Ahern he's an accomplished basically gamer. He's an accomplished novelist, and he is basically just all things amazing when it comes to illustrations. And he is right now my lead graphic artist. And most of the gaming icons, from the board game new design to the icon, the user interface icons on the cards, to basically the rules layout, he is really the pretty much my right hand man, so to speak, on getting this game out to the public. And he's taken on a lot of those roles and responsibilities I mentioned earlier. So without Luke, this game basically does not, there's no way it would go to the public, because it's one thing for you to have the ideas, but then you have to have somebody put those ideas on paper and basically bring those out in such a aesthetic way that it's pleasing to the eye and it's pleasing to the gamer. And I think Luke does that better than anyone I've worked with. So he's, if you go on to BoardGameGeek.com and you look at the Pirate Republic, you can read his full bio there, but he's been in the gaming community for many years, and very lucky to have him as an asset.
Neat. Very cool. And so I imagine that you come fairly naturally to the teamwork aspect of all this based on your day gig.
Sure.
And
Sure.
Whereas there are other people like me who I just want to do everything by myself, which is a completely different mindset. So let's talk a little bit about your day job here, which is as a combat rescue officer in Special Ops, which is amazing. Tell me, what does that job entail, just as a log line, sort of?
Okay. Well, basically, if you look at your layout of your Department of Defense Special Operations, you have roughly about 300 Air Force pararescuemen and or combat rescue officers. You have anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 U.S. Navy SEALs, and you have anywhere upward to 8,000 to 10,000 Army Special Forces, and that's not to include your branch and sequels of Delta. And what your pararescuemen are, because it's such a small community, they were basically birthed out of the jungles of Vietnam, where our birthplace was basically rescuing downed air crew behind enemy lines. The Air Force saw a very quick need to basically being able to bring in a combat search and rescue capability that could go behind enemy lines in what we call austere locations, recover those airmen, soldiers, sailors, Marines, and bring them out of harm's way. That since mission has been around and has morphed from basically Vietnam to our current war on terror and the current conflicts that we're engaged in today. So a combat search and rescue team is specifically composed of pararescuemen, combat rescue officers, could be combat controllers, and those teams are basically tasked for recovery missions that basically that is dependent. That can be anything from combat search and rescue to combat casualty care to evacuation staging. Some of the more recent, maybe in the public events where you find pararescuemen, we just aren't really writing about our exploits as much as, say, some of the other services, which is fantastic. We just do not. We were involved in the Private Lynch rescue. We were involved in Mogadishu's Black Hawk Down. If you've read that book, That was Air Force pararescuemen who were involved in that. To most recently, maybe folks are familiar with Lone Survivor or with Marcus Luttrell. That was actually a rescue that was performed by Air Force HH-60 Hayhawks with pararescuemen. So we are very involved in the community. It's a very small community, very small in the Air Force, and we basically are quiet professionals that are happy to go into harm's way and provide that rescue, recovery, trauma treatment specialists to basically U.S. SOCOM forces as well as sister services.
That's amazing. And there is no easy day at work in a position like that. What kind of mindset do you, I mean, is there a mindset that you had before going into that line of work that made you feel like you could go into the mud every day, or every day that you're on duty as well, and put yourself in that kind of situation? What does that mindset look like?
Yeah, I think we all have to put our head on the pillow and say what motivates us and what drives us today, or what was driving us yesterday. And for me, I think, and the answer is, of course, potentially different for who you talk to in the community. But for me, I'm a very big believer in something called the challenges have to meet the skills at hand that you present.
Sure.
And so what I mean by that is that you and I are playing each other in tennis, and you're just wailing on me. I mean, I cannot keep up with you. You're beating me 6-0, 6-0.
That would never
happen. Right away, Phil, you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to get extremely bored because I cannot. This guy's not giving me a challenge. And then on the other side of that net, I'm going to be I'm going to have this level of anxiety that you can't even imagine, because I want to give you a run for your money. I want to give you a challenge, so to speak. And so the philosophy is, when that challenge that you're presented meets these skills that you have, you're more likely to have this sense of enjoyment, this sense of happiness, for lack of a better word, fulfillment, that you provided some value to the day because you were challenged in that day. And so certainly special operations gives you that challenge. But I would argue, back to the board gaming, that bleeds into the creative aspect of a board gamer, because what you're trying to experience as a board gamer, or at least what I'm trying to have my audience experience, is, can I present them with a creative game that keeps your player's skills fully involved? And can that game increase its challenges and match your skills? And if you have done that as a gamer, you've created something special, because at the end of the day, they're going to want to play it again and again. It's when that boredom kicks in, or that anxiety kicks in because the game's maybe too complicated, or bored because the game's too easy, that your gamers don't enter that, what some people would coin a flow experience. So to answer your question, yes, I've studied this psychological phenomenon called flow experience, from Appalachian Trail through hikers, a thesis on that, to just current state board gaming, to now my special operations background. So I definitely love waking up in the morning and there is a new challenge that's presented to me, and having to face that head on with the skills I have.
That's interesting, and that explanation actually makes total sense to me, because, and this is in no way a direct comparison, but often when I come off a stage after a show, people will go, "Oh my God, how do you do that? How do you get on stage and entertain a room full of people? I could never do that." Because, I mean, they always say public speaking is one of the largest fears of people, whereas I've been able to turn what long ago was stage fright to be able to channel that adrenaline and channel that energy then into the show and into the tools at my disposal in order to actually do the job. Did you ever have to deal with sort of the equivalent of stage fright in what you were doing, where you weren't? Did you ever have to go through, say, imposter syndrome, where you go, people think I can do this, but I'm not sure I can do this?
Well, I would say that if that level of risk isn't putting butterflies in your stomach, so to speak, before you're going out for either a mission, a mission rehearsal, or to put yourself out where there is risk involved and there is potential danger if that risk isn't mitigated. I want somebody who can be honest with those with that sentiment and that mentality, because. The person that is probably not someone that I want on my team, so to speak. I want someone who realizes that all their senses of awareness have to be channeled, because what they're getting ready to do is maybe is a little unusual than what most folks would do. So absolutely.
That's it. That's really intriguing. What an amazing job to have to do. How often are you in the field actually doing that kind of job?
Sure. At the height of Iraq in the 2003 2004 timeframe, most recently, this was it was 6 month, 4 to 6 month deployments with a 6 month to 1 year off, back again 4 to 6 months. Tours in Afghanistan, tours in Iraq, even tour in Pakistan, but. No, I like to say any place ending in "stan," that's probably where we've been. So,
right.
But right now the ops tempo is definitely a lot lower. Of course, as you progress throughout your career field, they're looking for you to be more of a manager, more of a strategic leader in the community to bring about change, cultural change, lasting change in the DoD. So, not so much of the tactical missions at my stage in my career, but definitely in the early 2000s. Yes.
Interesting. So you made it through. That's great. So tell me about what's the status of the board game now? We're still in the creation stages. What are you doing to put that out to the world?
Sure, absolutely. Well, right now we're projecting a mid to late January launch on Kickstarter.
Okay.
We are waiting for a couple more reviews from the game based on all the changes that we made with the first version and the prototypes that went out there. So where we are right now is we're going to basically be in about a month to 2 month long prototype testing of this latest version, as well as having these game reviewers take a look at it. And if it meets the intent of what we're looking for, we're going to launch it in late January. But it's very interesting that you bring that up, because it's amazing what social media has done to where it has basically enabled this community of board gamers to get their games out there to a community that is thirsty, I would argue, for a deeper, more enriching gaming experience. So I definitely hope to do that to the community, and I really hope they get a chance to listen in and give this game a shout.
Nice. That's fantastic. So we'll definitely be posting the link to the Kickstarter when that's coming up, and I think it's this episode will probably be dropping not too long before you put it up. And what's the best place online for people to follow along with what you're doing?
Absolutely. They can go to www.greenfeetgames.org, and they can be caught up on all things Pirate Republic related. There's a backstory to why it's called Green Feet Games. We're just going to have them have to peruse the website to find out more about why the name Green Feet Games. But the Pirate Republic will be posted there. They can sign up for our newsletter, which we publish monthly, on all things the Pirate Republic, and keep up to date on how the game is getting to get Kickstarter status.
Fantastic. And yeah, there is a link to the story behind the name Green Feet Games on there, which I have to go dig into a little bit deeper myself. I saw the page and I was like, I don't have time to read this right now, but I'm going to come back to it later because it looks pretty intriguing. Well, Tom, this was really fun to have you on. Thanks for coming on and talking about all that great stuff. And we'll make sure to link all that stuff up in the show notes. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want people to know?
Well, Phil, I wanted to thank you and for what you're doing to keep all things pirates alive and well in our day and age, because I'm a big history buff, and I believe that it's important that folks have an understanding of what of our origins. And I would just, I guess, leave you with that today, if maybe the audience is unaware, is the Marine Corps' birthday.
Nice.
And if we look at the U.S. military, our Marine Corps was birthed by its ability of Thomas Jefferson, supported by Congress, to build 6 frigates in the early 1800s and send those frigates over to attack the Barbary pirates. So here we have the birth of our Marine Corps today, and basically embedded with this history of piracy, the Moroccan pirates that they were able to basically encounter in Tripoli. So for me, I think many people have pirate nostalgia for many different reasons. I think why it's important today is because they were rebels that challenged conventions of class, race, a nation, even gender. They had these high ideals of their own form of liberty, their own form of this democracy and equality, and it was an alternative model. And so, yes, they had their downsides of who they were, but they also had this unrestrained liberty, this unrestrained power And I think that's the appeal, is that unrestrained liberty and power that brings that nostalgia to us today, be it on using Calico Jack's flag to Black Sam Bellamy's flags that you find on beer coolers, to just your modern day flags, to your bumper stickers. They're everywhere. But these Robin Hoods of the deep seas, I think, are always going to be ingrained with us because we relate to them. And so I hope that this game does some of that for your audience and future audiences.
Fantastic. That's great. And for anybody listening, if you have not read any of the stories of the Tripoli battles, which take place well after the golden age of piracy, super intriguing stories that have to deal with the early years of the United States. I just read a few books recently on it. Really great stories. Tom, this was great, man. Thank you again for coming on, and let's talk again soon.
Phil, thank you so much again.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye now.
And there it is, friends. That is my interview with Tom Butler of Green Feet Games about his new game, The Pirate Republic, and all that cool special ops stuff he does. How awesome is that, right? How you just don't get to talk to somebody like that every day, right? It's that was really enjoyable, very interesting to me, and hopefully to you. So if you want to find out more about Tom Butler, go to greenfeetgames.org. Like I said, they're going to be doing their Kickstarter in January sometime, so you can keep an eye out for that, and make sure that you hit up and see what he's doing. It's going to be good. Yeah. And let's see. We got, what else do we have today? We got a sponsor. Under the Crossbones today is sponsored by Pirate Radio of the Treasure Coast, WKKC-DB, playing the best music in pirate radio talk. You can listen to this show, Under the Crossbones, on both their stations. Just go to pirateradioofthetreasurecoast.com or pirateradiotc.com, and don't forget to download their apps. They got Pirate Radio Treasure Coast, which is the music station, and Pirate Radio Talk, which is their talk station, and it's the best pirate talk on radio. I'm going to guess it's the only pirate talk on radio, but it is the best pirate talk on radio. So go check that out. And I think we're like the number 3 show over there now, which is cool. That's really, really nice to see. I got a free ebook for you. It's Alexander Exquemelin's Pirates of Panama or Buccaneers of America, whichever title you prefer. And it's free. And if you've never read it, it's an amazing piece of writing from the golden age of piracy that you should definitely check out. Written by Alexander Exquemelin, who was a doctor who ended up on a pirate ship and wrote about all the piratey things going on around him. It's very cool. So that's free. Go to underthecrossbones.com and click on the free ebook button, and you can get it right there. Or if you're out and about and all you got is your phone on you, just text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. Text the word pirate and your email address to 94253. All right, let's dig into some comedy and some music. Comedy today is my new friend Nick Flair, who I was performing with in San Diego over the weekend. Very funny dude. So we're going to hear some comedy from Nick Flair. And then I did not have time to get a song from a band this week. So we're going to hear some Christmas music from my band, Phil Johnson and Roadside Attraction. And it is a song, it's a holiday song. It's about... well, you'll hear what it's about. It's a style of music I call lounge punk. And here's the thing. I don't like Christmas music at all. And so keep that in mind when the song comes on. All right? All right, here we go. Let's hear some comedy from Nick Flair, and then we're going to hear a song from Phil Johnson and Roadside Attraction. That's me. Here we go.
I'm ugly, but I'm like cute. I'm like a thug. I know. And all the girls in there like, oh my God, I just want to hold you. I'm going to hold you and put you back. I can't keep you. I know. But I know I'm ugly for sure, though, because like all my life I heard women want married men. Not true. I've been married for almost 2 years, and I've yet to be hit on. That's a lie. A lot of dudes hit on me. I don't get it. But, you know what I mean? So, like, all my life I heard it, right? And I know I'm ugly for sure, though, because my wife thinks I'm ugly. But I know. So, whatever. But no, like, I can go and do shows and flirt with women, you know what I mean? How you doing, Rachel? Go home and be like, babe, this chick at the show, she super wanted me. This is what my wife does. She goes, okay. A thumbs up? You know how ugly you gotta be? You get a thumbs up from your wife? That's like a kid coming home with the D and the parents are like, yes. You're smart. It's messed up. Me and my wife have problems like any other couple. So I've been reading books, trying to fix our marriage. I've been reading this new book. It's really good. It's called If I Did It, The Confessions of a Killer. It's a good book. I'm learning a lot of new things. I think our problems will be over really soon. You guys have a dark ass sense of humor.
They say that Christmas time is a time for giving, a time for brotherhood, a time for love. But I know that there's just one word to describe it all, to describe it all. Gimme, 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 mine, mine, mine. Gimme, 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 mine, mine, mine. Presents underneath the tree. But where's the one from Grandma? Oh, she only sent a card, and there wasn't even money. Well, Grandma, you can stuff that card where the Star of Bethlehem don't shine. Gimme, 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 mine, mine, mine. Gimme, 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 mine, 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 mine. Mine.
And that's our show for today, friends. Thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you for telling your friends about the show. If you are not subscribed yet to the show, maybe if you're listening over on Pirate Radio or whatever, go to your favorite podcast app. If you want to get these shows every Tuesday when they come out, and you go to your favorite podcast app, you look up Under the Crossbones, and you subscribe right there. It'll be automatically downloaded to your device. Very, very easy. Thanks for iTunes reviews and all that kind of good stuff. Those are always nice. And if you want to find out more about Tom Butler and his Pirate Republic board game, go to greenfeetgames.org. And you can also read there about why he named it Green Feet Games, which is a pretty interesting story in itself. Go to, if you want to find out more about our comedian, Nick Flair, go to facebook.com/Nick Flair Has Flair. And that's Nick, N-I-C, no K, just N-I-C, Nick Flair Has Flair. When I first saw that, I was pretty sure it said Nick Flair Has Hair, which would be a misnomer because he doesn't have that much hair. Anyway, but yeah, Nick Flair Has Flair on Facebook. Check him out. If you want to find out more, and if you like the little holiday song there called Gimme Gimme, go to Phil Johnson and Roadside Attraction. Or go to our website at roadsideattraction.com, and you can download all our Christmas songs there. Got a couple other ones as well. If you want the show notes for this episode, go to underthecrossbones.com/070. And that is going to do it for our show today. Got a couple more shows coming up this month, and then a treat for you at the end of the month. And I hope you are doing well, and you have finished your Christmas shopping already, and you are just prepared to spend the rest of the month eating. All right, see you next week.